So big picture-wise, the goal of group time is to create a community within the church where people can be real, encounter Jesus, and can live out their faith alongside others. And so, in case you guys haven't noticed, our church is kind of big, right? If you walk in, it can be kind of overwhelming. And you can also, even though there are a lot of people, it's very possible to feel lonely or disconnected. And so that's the power of small groups, is that it makes this church personal to you. When you walk in, you know some people who are your people, right? You know who you can sit with. You know who you can do things with. So that's the power of your groups, is that it makes community happen in the context of something that's very big. So we're creating community within the church where people can be real, talk about real things, ask real questions, figure out real situations, where they can also encounter Jesus. We are a church. Our mission is Christ-centered and Christ-focused. So we want to make sure that Christ and biblical truth is a part of that and can live out their faith alongside others. We don't want a bunch of people who are living out their faith individually just come together and just be like, oh, you're living out your faith, you're living out your faith, you're living out your faith. Great. Let's all do it individually. This is a group project. Faith was always meant to be a group project. Someone made a really important point to me in college and said, God is in community in and of himself. The Trinity, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit are in community. They do life together. Therefore, that is how God functions. Why do we think that we can function any way differently? Right? We created so we were meant to function alongside each other, with each other. So don't do your faith individually. Do it together and figure out how to make that happen within your groups. That is the goal of group time. Any questions there? Thoughts there?
Does that mean what?
Oh, whatever.
Be real.
I mean, no, it was not an intentional order. Is that what you're asking? Yeah. It sounded pretty though, right? Like it flowed. Yeah. All right. One of the first topics I hear struggles with, and it really runs across the board in age groups and genders, is community or lesson. Do we play and do we talk about life? Do we do highs and lows? Do we just hang out? Or do I make sure I get to the lesson? And that's a struggle because you can kind of get both extremes in that realm. You get kind of the Bible school teacher or the Sunday school teacher who says, here's our agenda, here's our truth. We're going to go and read this passage, talk about these questions, pray here, do this, whatever. We get to the end. And no one's friends, but everyone knows Ephesians, right? So that's one extreme. Or you get the other person who's like, who cares about the lesson? Let's just hang out and have a good time. And we're all best friends, but there's nothing that anchors us together. There's nothing that we're doing together, right? And so there's kind of two extremes. We try to figure out where should we be amongst those extremes. The first thing I'd say is do both, but emphasize the bigger need. Depending on your age group or even just the composition of your group, you're going to have to emphasize one of those more than the others. If you have a fairly new group, they're going to need community together because they're not going to talk about life and talk about real things if they don't trust each other. So at the beginning, you have to emphasize community. You have to say, hey, let's talk highs and lows. Let's spend 20 minutes on why you're frustrated. Let's do these things, right? Let's emphasize community because a tight-knit community allows for better discussion and application. If I trust you, then I'm going to share with you. And then you're going to help me apply this lesson or this truth into my life. And then my life will actually be transformed. If I don't open up my life to you, you're not going to be able to speak in truth and transformation into my life, right? So community is what opens the doors to that. And again, a different season and into different groups, you're going to need different things. Some of you guys have had groups that have been together for 4 years, and they're best friends. They don't need to talk about random things anymore. They just need to they hang out 3 times a week. They just need to talk about truth and how it affects their lives, right? Maybe Sunday needs to go Bible study time. Or maybe they don't hang out at all, and you need to figure out how to split 50-50, right? And so it all depends on where your group is, who your group's comprised of, and what's right for that season. You might need more community in the first half than you are in the second half. It just depends where they are, how many people you have coming or whatever. But I think it serves us as people to kind of figure out what we're shooting for. Because if we don't have goals in our own mind of, hey, how much play versus how much lesson we should do, the students control that time, right? They dictate how the lesson goes. And they're not the most thoughtful people in scheduling out small group time. They just kind of go with what they feel in the moment, which is right and fine. The third thing there, community is the power that allows lessons to be lived. So I know some people really discount community. They say, church is the only person that speaks biblical truth in. We should be reading the Bible from the minute they get there to the minute they leave. I agree. Scripture and Jesus is extremely important. But community is the power that allows them to live out their faith. You guys know teenagers. Disciplined isn't the first word I would use to describe them, right? Like, there's some students, there like a few like exceptions. I'm sure you guys are like, there's this one girl, there's one boy in my group who's way too mature to be 12 or way too mature to be 15. And but they're the exception, right? All the other ones are still learning how to be, I guess, functioning adults or an individual who can take care of themselves, right? They're not great at discipline. Some of them don't even do their homework. I was that kid. And so community is a huge force in allowing them to live out their faith. And we need to figure out how to harness that for them. And so, for example, I hear all the time of students who, like, after a retreat are saying, like, I'm going to be serious. I'm going to read the Bible. I'm going to go home, wait, well, there's Bible in a year plans. I'm going to read it. I'm going to do this. And I see them, like, next week, they're like, yeah, I read, like, days 1 and 3, but I still have to read the last 5 days. And then they give up on day 14 because they've only read 3 of 14 days. And they're like, there's no way I can catch up now, because they try to do it on their own. And so when students tell me, hey, I want to do this, I'm like, great, do it with someone. Let me do it with you. Or do it Jacob or Jonathan or whoever it is in our group. Because you're not going to do it alone. Even in service, teenagers can be a little bit selfish. I'm sure you've seen or heard or something. But when they're alongside people, we can help each other, right? Your students can help each other see the value in serving those other people. Or if anything else, if they have their friends there, it's more fun. And so they'll do it or they'll try it, right? Community is a huge asset in helping them live out their faith. And it helps them realize they're not alone. If Hank and Jim were trying to read the Bible together, and Hank failed for a few days, and then Jim failed for a few days, even if they both failed together, great. At least they don't beat themselves up because they realize someone else is just like them, right? So even if it doesn't work out because they're in community serves a huge purpose in that. Thoughts on community versus lesson, struggles, or things you dealt with in group, how you felt or figured out certain things with tensions in your group. You guys ever struggled with that? How much time do I do fun stuff? How much time do we talk about life? How much time do we do a lesson?
Sometimes when we're doing the community thing and they're all talking, we try to steer it toward the lesson.
Yeah.
Oh, well, sometimes you can do that. Just take it on topic.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to be like, oh, that's so great that you talked about this because that applies to this over here. Yeah.
Sometimes we wouldn't get to the lesson if we didn't do that.
Yeah.
When I first started, I was all about, because I'm pretty task oriented, so I'm like, gotta hit these tasks.
Yep.
And then as time went on, I'm like, I don't think they want to do that. And then just kind of watching some of the other leaders kind of adjust to that.
Yeah.
So I'm a little more fluid about that.
Yeah. And that's a great place to be because really, we know that you guys know your groups better than we do. And so we try to give you all the tools to say, hey, if you're going to spend an hour in Bible study, here's your 9 questions and a scripture that you can read through if you're going to do that. If you're going to spend no time in Bible study, here's your game you can do. Here's your highs and lows that you can do, whatever. You have to find out the right balance. You have to emphasize both in some ways. But here are the tools. Do with it whatever's best to serve your group. And so it's great that you're flexible. Your group is different than Charlie's group or Daniel's group. Any other thoughts? Lesson versus community?
We went through a season where our girls weren't super close, and so we spent a lot of time building community. And now it's really hard. It's a little late, but now it's really hard to transition them to lesson focused and not community focused because that's what we built for so long.
Yeah. I would say you're not going to trick them into anything. Meaning, like, you're not just going to be like, oh, let's just talk about let's say, like, you're going to be talking about community, like, all right, what about question number 2? Like, they're just not going to be like, oh, yeah, you're right. Like, especially for the older ones, you have to, like, intentionally have that conversation with them and say, all right, I hear this. Let's set goals together, or let's say, hey, let's make sure we spend half the time on the lesson, or whatever. You're going to have to partner with them in that because, especially, like, you're outnumbered already, and your girls, I know your girls, they're not quiet. And so docile. But you're going to have to intentionally have that conversation and almost lay out practical things. Because if anything is vague, that's open to their interpretation. And so for you to say, hey, the first half, we just heard from the lesson. Let's talk about the lesson first thing. And then we'll jump to community every day at 7:40.
It almost, I was going to say, it almost even makes me think like making one of them be like, okay, you're in charge of telling us when it's time to switch.
Yeah.
Makes them be a part of it too, and not just like we're wrangling them.
That's
You
perfect.
frame it as, okay, it's our last semester.
Get to it.
Yeah, we got to learn
Our last wisdom.
They
Yeah.
told us we're in charge of your future.
Yeah.
Last
One
wisdom.
of our struggles with our group, I think we have they're fantastic, but we have one specifically that's such full of joy. She's just really full of a lot of joy all the
Yeah.
time. And so, like, we try to get serious, And I think some girls want that,
Mm-hmm.
but she will do it for a second, and
Mhm.
then that joy
Literally,
just takes
yes,
me out. It's like, okay, we talked about something serious. I'm going to do a cartwheel,
Mhm.
And so it's just
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
And she's precious, like,
Yep.
and she has such wisdom when we can rein her
We
in
can
for a
focus her.
second.
Yeah.
But that's a big struggle for our group because I feel like some of our girls want to go deeper and want to
Mhm.
do the lesson. We try.
Not in phones. But I think we tried to say, like, set those expectations, like, since they're in ninth grade this year, okay, y'all aren't middle school anymore, we've been together 3 years, you're maturing, you're about to deal with some a lot of different issues than you dealt back then, so we really need to
Yeah.
be respectful of that. I mean, we said respectful of others, not flipping,
Yeah.
Do cartwheels
not in
and-
phones, not flipping, not upside down and back and bringing them back up.
Yeah.
So it's just that's a struggle for
It is.
for-
Yeah.
It's a good struggle. I mean, it's not like it's good. It's
Yeah.
I
brings
do
so
wish-
much joy.
I do wish we would do more, and I don't know if that's even appropriate, but our teenagers don't know healthy phone etiquette
Mm-hmm.
in front of adults. So like
They
you'll
don't.
be up giving a really good talk, and you look around the room, and 80% of them are snapping and this, and that. As we have juniors and seniors, that carries over into college, and we're
Mhm.
not equipping them with the ability to look an adult in the face and listen for 20 minutes without being on the phone. And all you have to do is sit in church on Sunday morning behind them too. And they can't listen. They're just talking on their phones. And I feel like maybe you don't want to be the bad guy, but at
Yeah.
the same time, they would do
Yeah.
so much better when they get to college if they knew how to be respectful with the phone. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else sees it or not.
Well,
too.
my experience, I see a lot of people out to dinner and their kids are on their phones, and my kids even look at their phones. They don't do it. They just don't. We don't have that trouble at the cookhouse because I'm a phone Nazi. But now Brock may be one at Fallon sitting there looking at his phone when I'm not pregnant. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'm not sure
I
he's
know.
self-disciplined,
I'm certainly
but
not.
he's sure enough disciplined.
Teenage boy, self-discipline. Maybe not.
Yeah, that's not true. But
Yeah.
we started having our girls take our phone out.
Yeah.
I know.
That's what I need.
But
Yeah.
they do involve so much more than technology.
It depends on. So I'll try to speak to both real quick. It depends on the age. If they're 6th grade and that's an issue for them, I would take their phones. When they're older, taking their phone feels like you're slapping their
Well,
hand.
they're there by choice.
Yeah.
Right? They could be
Yeah.
any place. So you don't
Yeah.
really want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you almost. I feel like the happy medium is I've seen people say, "Hey, we're all just gonna take out our phone to put them face down on the table in front of us. It's still yours. If you ever need it, it's right there. I'm not taking it away from you. It's just not in your hands. It's not a temptation."
Yeah,
So
hey, while we're doing this, keep your phones up.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can see them sitting there like,
yeah,
sexy me.
yeah.
I mean, that's what we've done. We from the day one, we've taken their phones
Mm-hmm.
from the first day.
Does it cost you anything? Do you feel like they are
No,
regretful of
now
it?
they walk in and immediately put the phone on
You
the
train them
table.
up right.
And I
Get them while they're young.
I started off with candy.
Yeah,
I did. I started off with candy, and I said, "Here's a candy bucket. I'm going to put it up here on this table where the phones go. And when you put your phone up here, you can. And I'll have one every new person every so often. Well, what if we don't want any candy?
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. You don't have to have any candy.
Yeah.
This is a no phone zone.
yeah.
So we put our
Yeah.
phones away.
Get them while they're young. What you guys are talking about when it comes to, especially the younger ones, are probably overjoyed, excited, hard to contain or control.
Just one.
Just one, yeah.
One of our 15.
A lot of times what I'll try to do is address it as a group first and generalize it. Hey guys, here's what I'm trying to do. Are you guys all on board with me? Because now you set a standard that's group wide. And the next time that in the next group, they're going to do it again. She's going to be overjoyed again. So afterwards, or you say, hey, I just want to talk to you real quick. I love that you're here. You were crazy tonight. I love you. I know that you're crazy. We talked about staying on task a little more. What can I do to help you stay on task? That at least tells her that you're going to hold her accountable. It's not mean, right? You're helping her do it. And then the third thing that I would say is in group, figure out how to engage her purposely in different things. Sometimes when you ask questions generally, she's probably not shy if she's doing cartwheels. So sometimes would say, hey, Jessica, what do you think of this question? Now she's being forced to stay on task in that certain question. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
Assign her to be in charge of the list.
You could do that. Yeah.
Well, actually, it does help a lot if you let them ask the questions.
Mm-hmm.
If you give them the
Yeah.
there's a lot of them there, and if you write them down like on an index card and say, okay, what's the next question? And but then it does help a lot.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised, even ones that you wouldn't think were ready to do it. Like, jokingly, one of ours said it one time in, like, 10th grade, and I was like, sure. She's like, really? And I was like, yeah. And she's kind of shy and doesn't participate in tummy groups, and she asked every question, and, like...
And it's like they're in charge, because they get to pick the answer.
Yes, they're
And,
crazy.
yeah,
I'm
okay. Empowers them greatly.
I was like, wow, I see you in this.
Yeah.
We need to farmers market. She did awesome. But we should involve the Joyce.
Yeah. If you don't purposely involve them, they're going to involve themselves whenever they want to. I'm going to hop to the next one. Teaching versus processing. This comes from, I've heard sometimes in leadership people saying, I try to teach them, I try to do this, and they just won't listen, or they just don't get it, or they don't remember anything. And it reminded me that this is a failure on my part to clarify really how we're trying to do things in ministry. My hope for you guys to say is, what we're trying to do is we're trying to do the teaching in there, or over there. We're trying to do the teaching for you for several reasons. One, because it takes preparation, and we know that you guys have families and lives and things like that. Also, we know it's kind of a point of intimidation for some people. Oh, I have to teach? And so we're trying to do the teaching for you. We're trying to bring out the scripture. We're trying to talk through application. We're trying to do the teaching. What we're hoping for you guys to do is to process that truth with them. And so I'll explain the difference. Teaching means to explain, while processing means to explore. So teaching is you're going to explain what this is, how you do it, why you do it. To explore something with them is to say, all right, so if this is true, what does that mean? This happens. Or are you sure that's true? Because this and this happened. And you're trying to take this truth and kind of push it to every different outer rim and see how it applies or if it affects things there. And so, this is an abstract example. If you're in a forest, that's what your goal is to get out. I get at the very beginning, before you go, I could say, let me teach you the route. You need to go north 50 meters, west, there's going to be a rock there, you got to do this, blah, blah, blah. Go here, there, whatever. I just explain to you the route. Versus, when you say, explore. Go wander around for a little bit. Notice the environment. Tell me what you see. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about it. And I'm going to say, all right, well, this is what the information we got. What if we go here? Or whatever. And so there's an exploration versus explanation route. Teenagers aren't great at remembering explanations. If you're a parent, how many times do you get to explain the same thing to your kid? More than you care to, right? They don't just, they're not hard drives. They don't just download information and remember. But they will remember where they've explored. They've done that themselves. They saw things with their own eyes. They've touched things. And so for them, the process of exploration is going to be something they remember better. And so we're going to teach something in there they're probably going to forget. Hopefully you remember some of it so that way you have some sort of map or framework that you can take back to small group and say, okay, let's explore this into certain areas of your life. If forgiveness means this, how does that affect your friendships? What if you don't forgive someone? How does that affect your relationship with God? What does even forgiveness mean? And so you're trying to explore these different parts, which they're going to remember more. And it's going to serve them better in that realm. Great questions and playing devil's advocate inspires exploration. This kind of exploration can be kind of fun. Asking what ifs. Okay, well, you think that. They're going to give you a Bible school answer. You're going to say, why is community important? Because we all need friends. And you say, all right, well, all of Job's friends died. He was in the Bible. Is he a sinner now because his friends died? Well, and whatever answer they come to, they're going to have thought through on their own, and they're going to remember what they say. The two things that I've learned that students remember most are the things they themselves say. They're going to remember what they say. In a group discussion, they're going to remember mostly what they say. You'll hear that as you like talk, say, hey, we're talking about lesson tonight. They're going to repeat 30% of what you said and 70% of what they said if they said anything helpful, right? It's probably true for us too. If we're having a group hangout, we're talking with friends, we mostly remember the conversations we were a part of that we're talking in. The other thing they remember is one-on-one conversations, because not very often does a leader sit them down and say something to them directly into their life. And so during the exploration phase, if you can get them to come to these answers on their own where they are saying them, they're going to remember them. And so if you're worried about, if you're trying to focus on retention, if you can get them to say these things and to explore these things and to talk out and verbally process these things, they're going to retain those a little bit better. And so for your group time, teaching is secondary and most useful during exploring. So in my forest analogy, you could teach them at the beginning, go here, do this, blah, blah, blah. They're going to forget it. But if while you're exploring, if you're saying, okay, go explore this area and we're kind of exploring together, you say, hey, helpful hint as we're exploring, moss grows on the north side of trees. They're going to say, oh, that's useful to what I'm doing right now. We were exploring. I'm going to remember that. And so teaching is most useful in the process of exploring because it seems applicable. And so if you can insert your teaching moments in the midst of your discussion, not just your teaching the lesson, but discussion of how this truth applies, they're going to make that, they're going to remember that a little bit better. Thoughts on teaching versus processing? Questions?
Are the questions we are given written with that as the expectation? Or
Yes and no.
those questions?
So the hard thing is we generally write like 9 questions, like probably more questions than you should ever talk about in groups. And so we try to equip you with different directions you can go, knowing that, again, that Daniel's group is different than your group, which is different than you're in the same group, and Shelly's group. And so we try to say, all right, here are different answers. Try to take this and explore this with them. And so yes and no. Some of them are bad exploration questions, and some of them you almost need to teach it first so you have a basis to explore from. It's like, okay, let's all agree on what this means, so now we can explore from this base, right? Like some of the times you have to have, what does love mean? Okay, let's all get on the race. You say this, let's say this. Let's group come to this, and love means this. Now we have this. How is love applied here? And so some of those questions are not exploration questions, but some of them have to be like, all right, let's agree so we can explore from a common base. That's a great question. I'm going to start looking at our questions and see if we're actually helping you do what we say we want to do. So I hope so. I don't know. Other thoughts or questions?
I've just found this is even useful in like counseling conversations with them of like if they're going through something and you even ask the question of like, well, what advice would you give a friend who's going in this? Like them coming to the conclusion is going to be more helpful than you just saying what you think they should do.
Yeah, because they're putting time and effort into it, which is going to reinforce that memory in their brain. Like there's passive listening versus active problem solving. Yeah, that's a great technique. Other thoughts, questions, anything you want to share that you've learned from this?
We were doing the relationship series with our group. I think it was last year. And one of the things we talked about randomly was if you go to, not go to different churches, but if you like somebody or you want to marry somebody who might be Catholic and you might be Methodist. And one super smart girl in our group, she said, oh, I don't think that would really matter as long as I go to church. And we didn't even do, we were like, but what if you wanted to do baptism? You know, and you could see the light bulb go off for her. I mean, it was a pivotal moment for her. She was like, I never thought about how it would affect raising our children together. Like you could see her, she not even processed through that. So it was, this one question was awesome.
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about it. I hadn't had to think about it. We don't have that issue, but you're really young and trying to find somebody who's going to be on board with what
Yeah.
It's really good.
That's so important, yeah, because teenagers, even if they have the answer, you want them to understand the effects of their answer.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you said that's fine. Is it really fine if this happens? Or yeah, it's huge. We'll go to the next slide. This is for, I know some people who play games, some people who hate games, some people who love games. Everyone has their own opinion on games. I'm not much of a games person. Luckily, our boys like to play sports, which is great because we can bond through that and laugh through that, and that's a lot of what games do. But I just want to talk about making the game serve you. And so I got 4 things on here. One, the games create bonds. And so if you're in a group, especially of younger students, and maybe they don't know each other well yet or they don't trust each other, games are just going to bring them together. Just to have fun together, it really kind of puts people at ease. One of the things I told the last group is, think about the most intimidating person you know. Like one that you're kind of afraid to talk to. Now picture them laughing. Like it kind of puts you at ease around them, right? Like, you're going to like interact with them a little bit more. And so that's what it does. The second thing is games make you relatable. Like they might be intimidated because of you because you're older, or you might be intimidated because of them because they're the quiet type that just stares or whatever. But if you can just laugh together, that's going to bring you closer. And so if you can use the game for your purpose, it doesn't just have to be a time filler. Think about what you want it to do and how it can serve you in that. Third thing is games can help you regain control. one of my kind of like back in my mind like pro tips about small group leading is never give up control of the group. Even like always have your hand on the steering wheel. It sounds very like manipulative, right? Like meaning don't ever let it go to a point to where you can't rein it back in. Because at that point you've lost.
Like if it's been 2 years without
just quit. And so like I guess I'll Daniel and I experienced this probably like month one together here. One of the boys got a new car, and someone got a new car, and all the boys were like, stop talking about your new car and rubbing it in, blah, blah, blah. He pulled out his keys, and one of the boys grabbed his keys and ran out in the parking lot, and another boy chased him, and the boy's keys were lost, chased him, and they're throwing things at each other. We're like, we have officially lost control. And so if none of that's happening in your groups, feel better, because leave faster. Yeah, like there's no reining it back in. Like I wasn't gonna run down the street and be like, we're trying to talk about question 3. Like it just wasn't going to happen. And so one of the things I always try to do is even when I let them have some rope, try to keep it with my trouble. Like the moment where I kind of know like at what point I feel uncomfortable reining it back in. Like at some point you're like, okay, in order to rein it back in, I'm gonna have to like yell, or I'm gonna have to be like, guys, shut up. I just don't want to get to that point. And so I'm going to maintain control. I'm going to let them go as far as I feel comfortable with them going. I'm going to rein it back in before it gets to boys chasing keys in the parking lot. But I'm going to try to. But games can help you rein in control. If you've got some kids who are chaotic or all over the place, if you say, all right, hey, now we're going to play a game, they are now listening to someone who's in charge. And you're able to use that game to focus them on something. And instead of being the person who's cracking the whip and saying, shut up, listen to Jesus. You're now the fun one, right? Like you're now like, oh, we're gonna play a game, and so you can regain control. You focus on something. You're hopefully doing something productive that's creating bonds that are going to let you talk about real things in life. But it at least regains control for a minute, and it does it in a light that's helpful for your students. You're not breaking trust. You're building trust with them. And the last thing is it gets their energy out in a positive way. They could be hitting each other with pillows or sitting on each other's faces. Like they're crazy. And so at least. If you're playing a game, they're doing it in a way that's not hurtful to other people, hopefully. Depends on what your game is. Any thoughts on games before we go to the next one?
Leave them sometimes for bribery.
Yeah.
All right, we have a game, but if y'all sit here and listen, we're not going to play the game. We're not going to have
We
time.
play any game suggestions in our group.
Yeah.
Our kids will always have suggestions. They know. So
That's what I thought. Well, maybe we could ask them like everybody over the game.
yeah, they. Let's play this. Well,
Jacob's got a list of them, too.
As long as Candy,
Yeah.
we can get to listen to 10 minutes, not all at once. If we can just get them to stay on the liver packets at the end of
Oh, that's awesome. Any other thoughts? Questions?
I was thinking if he didn't.
Here is a struggle I've heard before is, do I do what my small group students need? Like, I know this person has never been to a church, I know this person hates God, I know this person's grown up in the church. Do I serve the needs right in front of me, or do I do what everyone else is doing out there? Now, I've heard this in a couple different series. So, like, one of them, for example, was our John series, where we were going to study so we could share. We said, all right, we're going to study the scripture so we can find someone else to share Jesus with and have a conversation with. And some people were like, my kids don't even care about the Bible. They're not going to study so they can share. They don't care about God themselves. Why would they share it with someone else? Valid point. And so they say, I need to talk through this kid's breakup, and I need to talk through this person's struggle with their parents, and blah, blah, blah. I don't know how I do that, or if it's not even applicable to them. How do I manage that tension? So I'd say, if we're going to talk about this being the church, all of us together in your small group, which one do you serve better or whatever, I'd say serving the church is serving your group, and vice versa. Don't feel like you're compromising one or the other when you focus on one or the other. When you are doing what everyone else is doing, you're serving your group. You're telling them they're a part of something. You're telling them they belong in a place. You're telling them the church matters. And when you're serving your students, when you're saying, let me talk about your need or your need or your need, you're serving the church because those people are the backbone of the church. They're the people that are going to be out in the world living in action. And so they're going to mobilize our ministry. And so it's not vice versa. It's both and. They're serving each other. So don't feel like it's kind of this false dichotomy. Like, if I do this, I'm sacrificing this. And if I do this, I'm talking about this. And it's kind of the same deal with community and lessons. You need to do both. you might emphasize one or the other more in seasons, or you may have to figure out how to tailor that to your group. But both are important. Participating or participate in big things. Because if we ignore that, if we say, we're just not going to read John, or we're just going to ignore what was taught up there, they're not going to feel like this is their place. Because you've told them that we're not a part of that. Does that make sense? Like you're saying, we're just not going to do what everyone else is doing. You're saying, we are not a part of what everyone else is doing. But if you say, we're going to be a part of what that is, this is our church. We do this together. And families, even when things don't serve us, it serves the family. And so we're a part of this. And so it is important for us to do what's in the big thing, not just because people spend time creating lessons. I don't care about whether you use my material or not. I care about what's best for the student. And when we live in a culture where 50% of students are leaving the church after high school because they never felt connected in the first place, I want them to feel connected to this place. I want them to feel like the church is important and not just their small group. We don't want to teach that corporate is not important. We don't want to teach that time over there is important, or time isn't here important. That so many people think it's just my faith. Like I can pray at home, or I can read my Bible at home. I don't need the church. That individualism that's running rampant in our culture is affecting the church and hurting it in a strong way. I don't remember if I said that in here or in my thing out there, but when you read the first half of the Bible, when you read the Old Testament, it's not about God and one person. It's about God and Israel. It's a people group. Like it is so corporate, it's not even funny. Like it's all about God and his people going for his journey. And in America, we've all made it about us. It's my faith. It's what I want. It's what's good for me. And that was just never how it was. You see moments of people. You see Moses or Abraham there or whatever. But Christianity is probably the only faith that I know of that emphasizes the individual as much as the community. They are both important. It's not one above the other. Everyone, corporate is important. The individual is important. And we need to figure out how to live with that tension in our groups and in our ministry is. And we're going to be about you and be about what we're doing here. We may have to modify that a little bit. And so one of the ways I saw someone do that, they said, hey, my kids they're not ready to go share God with people. And so we're going to modify that and say, we're still going to read John together, but then we're going to ask our students to find someone to read with them. Like they don't understand scripture enough to go teach someone. So we're going to say, hey, either you guys read together and go through that and talk about it outside, or you're going to read a small group leader, or you're going to ask your parent to read with you or something like that. So we're going to take the same concept. We're going to do what the church is doing, but we're going to apply it in a way that meets our students' needs. And so that helps send the right message to them. And for the really important things that you might struggle with, have a boy in our group who's been crying for all 60 minutes because he broke up with his girlfriend or whatever. And we're like, well, what do we do with this need? Like, we didn't get to that lesson or whatever. For the really big needs, those are tension. You may have to find time outside of groups to talk about this because that kid's not going to be served anyway. Like, the other 9 kids may not be invested in that person's life enough. Maybe they are. Maybe they've been together for 3 years and they are. That's awesome. Figure out how to get everyone invested in that life. But if not, you may need to find time outside of groups for those big needs so that way you can manage both corporate and there. And again, it's a balance. You might spend all night on one person a few times a week. Or a few times a year. That's fine. It's okay. You're not bad people or whatever. It's different in different seasons. You just got to figure out how to, large picture, maintain that balance. I think so many people try to figure out how do I maintain that balance within the night. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just go for balance big picture wise. Of how do I serve both needs over the big picture? Thoughts, questions, struggles. There's a lot of me rambling. I apologize.
This was helpful. This wasn't something I had really considered before. It's a new perspective.
Good. Yeah, it's one of those things that's almost like a background thought that, like, unless someone brings it up, you're just unaware of a lot of times.
Well, I definitely agree with what you said, though, about it's all about, as long as I believe, it doesn't matter that I don't go to church or I'm not a part of a group or whatever. As long as I believe in Jesus, then it doesn't matter that I'm getting fed any other way other than what I put in. So that's huge.
Yeah. And it's a lie that they're telling themselves anyway, because they do need the church. Like, especially teenagers, like, who can't do things on their own very well. You can pray and read the Bible at your home by yourself. You're not going to. You could, theoretically, but you're not going to. I'll jump to, this is for people who sometimes say, hey, break down what an average group night would look like. If I was trying to balance some of these things, what would that look like? This is probably not right for your group because all of you are different spaces with different people in different seasons. If you said, how do I do some of this? What would make me feel okay? Who knows? 20 minutes of communion, whether it's highs and lows or asking what's going on in life or whatever. 15 minutes of the topic. If you have 6th, 7th graders, I said, get 7 minutes, hoorah, high five, right? But having some idea of what you're trying to strive for, 10 minutes of play, 10 minutes of prayer at the end, whatever. Again, those are things that you're trying to accomplish. Those numbers are going to be skewed every week. Just have an idea of what you think is right for your students and try to shoot for it. Knowing that, give yourself the grace to know you're going to get it exactly right once a semester. Give yourself the grace that we're shooting for this. We know what we're striving for. We'll do the best that we can. Here are just other subtopics that I had. I'm going to do this in 3 minutes, so that way we have 5 minutes to talk at the end. If your hand isn't on the wheel, you can't steer. That's what I was talking about control. If you ever let it go past what you can control and your hand's off the wheel, you're done for. They're running with keys in the parking lot. Good luck. Try next week. Second thing, framing and enthusiasm are 2/3 of the battle. We experienced this with our boys on back to school retreat. We said, hey, there's going to be a lip sync battle. They're like, lip sync battle? We don't want to sing, blah, blah, lame. And then we get the back to school retreat and everyone's hyped up about it and everyone does a great job and our boys aren't prepared because they were too lame the entire time and we look like idiots on stage.
Who look like idiots on stage?
Them, not me. I wasn't there. I was a judge. I couldn't be. And so for those things, like anything with your student, whether it's something that's at a retreat or an outside event that you're trying to do, like a small group Olympics or a camping trip, or even if it's a mission night where like, I don't want to go serve, how you frame it and your enthusiasm are 2/3 of the battle. And so instead of saying, hey, we have a lip sync battle, we said, guys, this is really awesome. I know people are getting really hyped up about this. I know one group is practicing at the dance studio, blah, blah, whatever. And we were with $250 and oh yeah, it wasn't. Yeah. Whatever. And so if you frame it in this way, it's like everyone's doing it, this is going to be awesome, and you have the enthusiasm to carry it, they're going to be like, yeah, everyone else is doing it. I'm a teacher. I'll do what everyone says. They're going to be into it. And so even with serving, hey guys, it'd be so much fun if we all did this together. I know it's hard or whatever. We all get to go eat afterwards, and we'll talk and we'll hang out, and it really makes a difference. Whereas, hey guys, we have this mission that we have to go to Wednesday night. Show up, or I'll be lonely. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that will help you get your students involved, and especially because in a culture where your students like to bail, like they're like day of, they're like, I don't know who's going, so I'm not going to go. You can get them to all buy in together. When you're together, that really serves your ability to get there and to be in the right mindset later. 3, this is one of the most important questions that you guys can ask when needs or struggles come in small groups is, what can I do or what can we do to support you? So if someone in groups is struggling because something's going on with their parents, or they're struggling because they keep trying to read the Bible but they keep failing, or they're trying to do this and say, hey, I hear you, that is hard. What can I do or what can we do to support you in this? Because we said community is the power that allows faith to be lived out. So figure out ways to get your boys and your girls involved in that person's life. And so if it's prayer, great. Find some way that you can pray for them then or later or consistently. If it's, hey, I just need to hang out with friends, great. One of us will try to hang out with you in the front half of the week. Someone else, will you guys plan a lunch with them later and just hang out with them then? If you can get them involved, one, it's good for your students to care about your students because teenagers are selfish. And so if you can get them in the habit of caring about each other, it's good for them and it's good for the student that they're serving. And even though they're selfish, they're caring. They don't like to see anyone hurt or struggle. And so for you to almost, students may not have the boldness to say, hey, what can I do? Or may not even know that they are allowed to say that, but for you to open that up for them and say, hey, what can we do for you? You've now opened that door for them in a situation where they don't know how to have that conversation. 15-year-olds don't care for each other well. And so we almost have to teach them how to do that. We need to model that for them and open up doors for them in that realm. Plus, it sucks to share in groups and have no one, like, it sucks for you, and then move on, right? So if we can show them that we're actively involved and engaged, then it's really good for the group. Talked about use your group to plan outside time, blah, blah. Practice your faith and build habits in small increments. I think I've shared this with you guys before. There's certain things that, like, my boys should know how to do this by now, or they should be here before. And there's a long season where I was really frustrated with guys and boys in church because they mature slower and they're dumb. They like fire and they like hitting each other and whatever. And I was just frustrated because I'm like, you should know more than this now, and you should be comfortable with this by now. And I remember leading a group of 11th grade boys one time, and none of them wanted to pray afterwards. You're freaking 17. It's recorded. Can I say freaking? Okay, cool. I said pissed one time at a 7th grade FCA, and there's a kid in the back of me. He said pissed. And so, don't invite me to your school. I don't even remember what I was talking about. Oh, I was mad that they weren't comfortable praying out loud. I was like, you're 17. Like, what is this? Like, you've grown up in church your whole life. And so I've decided since then, if there's something that, like, I'm like, you should know this right now, I want to go listen to you, I'm going to find out some small way we can practice it every single week. And so with the thing that we do with our groups, in the first week I said, who wants to pray? No one said anything. Nope. Everyone's praying. I said, everyone's going to say one thing that they want prayer for, and we're just going to pray for the person on our right. You don't have to say much. You can say, God, help them have peace this week. That's all you have to say. But you're going to say something out loud, and it's going to be a prayer. And they haven't fought us since then, right? Like, at least not to my face. And so there's practicing something every week. And so hopefully if someone ever asks me to pray at the end of the time, I'm like, hey, I've done this before. I've heard prayers. I've said prayers. It's normal. And then, I think we've talked about this before, is discuss inviting friends and what makes them comfortable. Sometimes we don't see new people in groups or see new people return because we weren't prepared for it. They walked in and we do a normal group thing and they feel like they're sidelined. They're looking in. And so if we have a plan for them and our students are involved, if we say, take 10 minutes on Sunday and say, hey, if someone new comes in, what do we want to do to make them feel comfortable? And everyone's in on this plan. Then when someone comes in, you're going to be ready for them. And they're going to feel like you were ready for them. It's a difference between showing up to a house randomly and walking in and someone be like, what are you doing here? Or just someone inviting you over and having cookies made for you. You know, like there's a different feel to that. And so that will greatly affect your ministry to those who aren't here yet.
We have to for real do that because like left and right people were coming to our group and never coming back, and because our girls are crazy. And we sat down with them and we said, hey, people aren't staying and we're not being very welcoming, and so we came up with like get to know you questions that we would ask any newbies. I think they said like they wanted to give them like a little present to each like new person came, and like literally came up with a plan of here's what we'll do when a new person comes. And it was really cool to like see their attitudes change about it.
Yeah. That's really cool. Any other thoughts or questions about this, or what was the slide before this? Not group time.
Group time schedule. Yeah.
Group time schedule. There's something besides that before that too. I don't know what it was. I kind of blew past the past two. Any thoughts or questions about any of those tensions or struggles or topics that we had on there? I think it was big church versus your small group. Maybe the one before that. You're allowed to think for a minute. Or anything in your group going on now that you just want to talk about, like how do we address this in our group or walk through this as a group?
I have a question about, do you think that we should enforce the use of a Bible versus letting them use their phones? I know on Sunday morning we're doing a really good job of using our Bibles. There's not Bibles in our room. Mm-hmm. Our girls don't. I mean, a couple of them bring them. So I have to get the Bibles and take them over there, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But, I mean, am I being an old fogey? I mean, I'm really asking. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it is important to know how to use your Bible, and I think it's going to benefit them in the long run, but I don't know how much to push it.
Mm-hmm. I'd say, I hate these answers, but it depends on where your group is. If your group is at a point where they're ready to start studying the Bible, like being serious about studying the Bible, they need to have a paper Bible. They need to be able to write in it, they need to be able to highlight in it, and do whatever. If they're not to that point yet. If there's, hey, I want to read the Bible because it's important to what we're talking about, or I can bring my Bible because it's part of the rules, I wouldn't make them bring their Bible because if they're not ready to write or anything like that, there really isn't any practical need for it. And that's huge with teenagers because they'll blow off what they feel are like, their buddies, they'll blow off what they feel like are fake rules all the time. Help at all? Well, I don't know where your girls are.
Yeah, I guess I just get hung up on, is it just one of those things that, whether it's practical or not, it's just something you can have to do. Just like,
I'm the same way.
I mean, it's just something we ought to
If they're open to
show it.
Push it. But if they're resistant to it, don't push it because you don't want that to feel like an obligation.
They need to know, the structure of the Bible, where your chapters are. Yeah, I think that's a good practical skill to have.
I remember Lynette, this is, bribery again with Candy, but when my first year with her, we had 7th grade. If they brought a real Bible, they got candy. And I mean, it gets you in the habit of it. If you're a girl, you may boys may not care, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, if your point is them to bring their Bible and look at it.
Yeah.
I don't care so much if they bring their Bible. It's just that they, right now.
They may not.
Yeah.
I just want them to know this is what we.
Yeah.
This is what we do.
Yeah. I'm just because of who teenagers are, I'm a huge proponent of paper Bibles because there aren't notifications or text messages on it. They're going to distract you.
Right.
And it's so much harder to study the Bible. You can read it like a story, like it's got words on your phone, so you can do that. But if you're going to study,
Don't let them use it on their phone.
Yeah.
No,
Mhm.
the phones are gone anyway. So.
Yeah, that's fine. That's.
I tell my girls, the 2 that live in my house, that, hey, where's your Bible? You remember your phone. Where's your Bible? And I get pushed back every single week. We don't use our Bible. We don't need our Bible. I have it on my app on my phone. You shouldn't be on your phone.
Yeah.
Every week. And they refuse to take it. And I don't push it because they're wanting to come and they love it and they're willing to come and they're learning about Jesus and they're all in. It's a fine line.
Yeah.
My girls will bring theirs because they have the note taker Bible. And so we really made it a point of, okay, this one is a really cool, you get your pen out, you need to mark this one up and dog ear the page. But they just started doing that this year. They're seniors.
And they're girls.
Right.
Make a difference.
And they're girls.
And they're girls.
Makes me feel better about not being there yet.
Yeah.
Well, I think the younger you can get them because of the fun note taking.
You could bring pretty pens.
Yeah.
What has the color?
Yeah. So that'll work for the girls. We got about -2 minutes. Any last burning thoughts, questions? Awesome. You guys are phenomenal. Thanks for giving us your night and your time. If there's things that I can serve you in, like personally, or things you want to talk to you personally, that's what I'm here for. That's why they pay me. And so if you want to meet and talk through things, if you want to grab coffee or come here before work or things like that, I would love to talk with you. Or call me on the phone. I have a phone. I even answer it sometimes. It's around here. It's right here. So if I can help you talk through things or even pray with you through things, please let me know. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah.